I'm making this video in response to criticisms for my Fight Club Samurai class. Some people watched the video for the build for my Fight Club Samurai, and their response was that this class would not work late game, that it cleans up early on, but that the class breaks down and just doesn't work late game. Now, they made these criticisms without trying the class, without trying the build. Some of my builds do specifically not work well in Nightmare for one reason or another, but this is not one of those builds. This build performs better the harder the game gets. And to show that, what I've done is I've played through a Nightmare mission with this build. And a couple of things about this. So first off, the Nightmare mission that I played through this week was very, very difficult. This is probably the most difficult Nightmare survival mission that there has ever been, because it's Blood in the Snow, which is the most difficult map, and it was reduced healing is the modifier, which is the most difficult modifier in my opinion. And in addition to that, reduced healing for this class really does hurt this class. It nerfs this class pretty badly. This class is, this build is created around taking damage. So what you're supposed to do with this build is you're supposed to take damage, and then you have a lot of ways to heal from that damage. And because the modifier this week was reduced healing, you can't heal from the damage properly. It causes a lot of problems for this build. So, full disclosure, I have another person playing with me who's my friend, and people who watch the channel regularly probably realize that Berkowitz is also affiliated with this channel. And Berkowitz is playing a Ronin build, which is another build that I came up with that I'll cover in a later video. And this is the build that Ronins should be using on Nightmare. It's a build that is a defensive build that is all built around healing. So he's doing a lot of healing and keeping me and everybody else on my feet. There are a couple of things about Nightmare missions in general. I don't like playing the Nightmare missions in this game. And it has nothing to do with the Nightmare missions, it has to do with the other players. So when you're playing on Nightmare, if you leave the defense zones, you start getting attacked by these floating Hwacha that are located around in various places around the level. You can't destroy the Hwacha, you can't stop them, you can't do anything to prevent them. The only way to avoid the Hwacha is to stay in the defense zones. And sadly, when you play with other players, they almost never stay in the defense zones. So people get into these habits when you're playing on gold of running out and fighting the enemies before they get to the defense zones. And then when you play on Nightmare, they do the same thing. And it's a very, very stupid thing to do. There's almost no reason for going and fighting the enemies in the Hwacha. You just get destroyed by doing that. And for that reason, I really hate playing these Nightmare survival missions, because other people do that. And once somebody starts doing that, especially, you get these people that get good at it, and they actually get very good at not letting the enemies get past them to the zones. And so then your choice is either to run out and fight in the Hwacha fire like a moron, or to sit back at the zones and do nothing. and so we've called it propagated bad behavior. People start doing this, and then it forces other people to start doing this, and then everybody is doing it. And by and large, most players who play this game play the game like idiots when they play on Nightmare mode. And as I consider myself something of a game strategist, and it just drives me nuts to have to do that. And so when I play the Nightmare survival missions, I very seldom play anything but the Ronin class. I usually play the build that Berkowitz is playing here. And it's a Ronin build that just heals a lot, and I will just stay back in the zones and let other people go and do whatever they want, and I'll just keep them healed. But because of the criticisms with this class, I felt the need to show that this class does perform very well in Nightmare missions. I have been through all of the Nightmare missions with every class, with every build that I've created. I've got all of the costumes unlocked for having gone through all of the Nightmare missions without losing bases and all of that with every class. So it's not like I can't do the Nightmare missions, I just don't like doing the Nightmare missions because other players are bad at them. So there are a couple of things that I want to point out. You know, obviously my kills, I far outpace all of the others on my kills, all of the other players on my kills. On the times that I go down far less than the other random players that we're playing with. Berkowitz also goes down far less than the other players that we're playing with because we both have builds that are good defensive builds that it's not easy to take these builds down. Berkowitz gets a ton of revives, like something like 48 revives by the end. My kill count by the end is like I think one short of all the rest of the players combined by the end. So obviously this class performs extremely well on Nightmare difficulty. And the other thing I want to point out, so the random players that we're playing with are not great players, and that's not necessarily entirely their fault. They're not max level players. One of them is actually fairly low, I think like something like 92, and the other one is something like, I don't know, 102 or 105. The max level is 110. My character builds are all at 110 at this point. So these guys are not great, but more importantly, they just don't play smart. They go out in the Watch of Fire and they get killed a lot. Sometimes I follow them, sometimes I just wait back. We actually, our strategy often revolved around, okay, we would talk about it at the beginning of the rounds, and we'd be like, okay, this player is going to go out into the Watch of Fire and get himself killed, and I'm going to need to wait for this character to get killed, and then you're going to need to wait for him to revive him until the enemies get through to the zone, and then you're going to revive him, then I'm going to go over here, and I'll have my thing ready so I can kill the Tengu demons that are showing up with Hachiman's Fury. And so we were actually planning around these guys dying for our strategy. That said, there were some things that these players did that ended up working very well that allowed us to finish this mission. Because if you played the mission this week, it did not have a high success rate. Most groups died or people dropped out or something, and they just did not make it through the mission this week. And I want to point out that the reason that our group was successful was actually less about me than it was about Berkowitz, and it kind of had to do with the other players too. And the reason that it worked is because we would just let Berkowitz take the off area. So Berkowitz would usually just run off to the second area that was attacked, and he would just stay in that area and fight all of the enemies in that area, and we just let him have it. We let him stay over there all by himself most of the time. Now, we had a second Ronin. This Ronin was not good at healing. He didn't have the soothing breath set up on his Eye of Izanani or whatever, I can't think of the name of that healing ability at the moment, but something about Izanani. But he didn't have soothing breath, so his revivability didn't heal other players. All it did was get them up on their feet if somebody went down. And Berkowitz does occasionally go down, and you know, obviously if you don't have another player over there with him, you need another Ronin in the game to revive him on the rare occasions that he does go down. And so this other player who was playing the Ronin, he served that purpose. He kept Berkowitz on his feet when Berkowitz would go down, and then Berkowitz would use his healing to heal the rest of the group and himself. But the reason this worked is because we weren't going over to the zone that Berkowitz was in. Because in order for the Ronin to be able to heal and revive people, the Ronin has to be fighting enemies, and that means he has to be getting kills, and he has to be taking hits, and whatever he needs to do to get his resolve that. And because we were just leaving him alone in a zone, he was able to get those hits. He was able to keep those, to get that resolve. He was able to keep the rest of the party on our feet and functioning. And that was just because we were leaving him alone and making sure that he had things to kill. A lot of players, when they play these Nightmare Zones, they have no respect for the Ronin player, and they will just run up to the Ronin because they know that that class is weak at getting kills, unless you're, there are Ronin builds that you can set up that are set up around getting kills, but then those are weaker classes that aren't as good as at healing. So when people see a Ronin that's set up defensively and set up around heals, oftentimes they will just follow that Ronin around and they will try to steal all of his kills, and it's just a big pain in the butt for the Ronin, and the end result is usually that the group ends up dying because the Ronin can't get enough resolve. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I want to give some advice to people, anybody watching this video, for when you're playing those Nightmare Zones. Number one, respect your Ronin, man. Your Ronin has got to be able to be in combat. He's got to be able to be getting these kills. He's got to be able to fight these enemies. And if you're going around following the Ronin, clearing out all the enemies around the Ronin, and then going back to the other zone, to try and steal these kills, then your Ronin can't properly keep your group healed. And that is the most detrimental thing that you can do in a Nightmare survival mission. And then the second thing is, don't run out in the Watch of Fire. Just don't do it. It's stupid. The only reason for running out in Watch of Fire is if you're trying to get on the leaderboards, because the leaderboards are based on killing the enemies quickly. But even then, if you're keeping the enemies from getting back to the zones, that is a dumb thing to do. That is actually slowing things down. Because when you're fighting in the Watch of Fire, it slows you down, because you have to keep breaking off your attacks from these enemies, so you kill the enemies slower than you would if they were at the zones. So if you have to go out and fight the enemies in the Watch of Fire, roll past the enemies at the beginning and start fighting the ones at the back. And then, as you fight, your fight will make its way back to the zones, and eventually you'll finish that fight up in the zones where you're not in the Watch of Fire. That's a much smarter way to do it. But that's if you're going for the leaderboards. If you're not going for the leaderboards, just don't go out in the Watch of Fire. It's a stupid thing to do. And the other thing is, if you're going for the leaderboards, you need to understand that you get bonus points for not losing bases, and you get bonus points for getting the bonus objectives. Those things affect your leaderboard score. So if you're not even trying to get the bonus objectives, then you're not trying to get on the leaderboards. So if you are playing this trying to get on the leaderboards, first off, you really shouldn't be trying to do that if you're just playing with random people. If you're trying to get on the leaderboards, you need to get together a group of friends, and you need to go into the level with the objective to try to get on the leaderboards. You need to plan out, you need to know what the bonus objectives are, you need to have a group of people who all have the skills to get the bonus objectives. If everybody in your group uses bombs, you're not going to be able to get on the leaderboards, because you've got to have somebody who can get headshots to fulfill the headshot bonus objective, assuming there is a headshot bonus objective in the level that you're playing. You need somebody who can do fire damage if there's a fire objective. You need somebody who's good at doing assassinations if there's an assassination objective. So you need to have that stuff all planned out, and you shouldn't be playing with randoms if you're trying to get on the leaderboard. But I see this all the time, where you're playing with randoms, they run out in the Watch of Fire, and then they don't even make an attempt to get the bonus objectives. Now, there's really no reason to get the bonus objectives unless you're trying for the leaderboards, because there's not any equipment that's unlocked for fulfilling the bonus objectives on nightmare missions. So you shouldn't be worrying about the bonus objectives unless you're trying to get on the leaderboards. But if you're trying to get on the leaderboards, then it is reasonable to run out and try and fight some of the enemies in the Watch of Fire. Don't try and prevent the enemies from getting back to the zones, because that just ultimately is going to slow everything down. Let the enemies get to the zones, but, fight them along the way. But then you have to do the bonus objectives too, and you need a group that is prepared to do these bonus objectives. Everybody needs to be on board with it. So that's my little rant, I guess. Enjoy the rest of the video. It's a fun video, and I'll have more builds up soon, so look forward to those.
Oni's corruption ceased. The ghosts stood their ground as more enemies approached. Enemies watched in terror as their allies fell. Ghost down and Oni. After they fell, the ghosts enjoyed a moment of peace. The ghosts readied themselves for another attack. ghost returned the Oni to its realm.
Feel my blade!
Oh, met their match. And Oni met its demise.
Last one down.
The ghosts could sense more enemies on their way. An enemy fell to a ghost's perfect aim.
We should not seek vengeance!
The ghost returned the Oni to its realm. The wounded ghost fell to the ground. The area was overrun. The ghost rescued their ally. The ghost butchered foe after foe. The ghost's allies have all fallen.
Into the shadows! All of them are dead.
The strongest enemies were sent against the ghost. hit them. Ghost fell, still drew breath. Ghosts never left the wounded to die. He met its demise.
Don't worry, I'm here. That was tough. We're stronger together.
Reinforcements arrive. Ghost down and on. A ghost's wounds sent them to their knees. The enemy would regret not killing the ghost. Enemies fell quickly.
Good of you.
And Oni met its demise. The sound battle subsided
Don't
for a
worry, I'm
moment.
here.
The enemy gathered their forces for another assault. The Oni's malevolent body grew still. A ghost called out for help. Help came to the wounded ghost.
Your soul is mine!
Ghost defeated an Oni. The ghosts rested a moment. The ghosts stood their ground as more enemies approached.
We're stronger.
The ghost turned the Oni to its realm. The ghost became a deadly storm.
Feel my blade!
One of the ghosts was taken out of the battle.
We should not seek vengeance!
Ghosts never left their wounded to die.
I'm here.
Even more men were sent into battle. Only corruption ceased.
We should not seek
The
vengeance,
ghost stood ready
but we
to
will.
fight. A ghost's wounds sent them to their knees. The Oni was no match for the ghosts. Ghost attacked swiftly.
Lost one down. Hold it together.
A grave threat arrived. The ghost couldn't stand on their own.
Your soul
The
is
ghost's defense has been breached.
into the shadows.
The Oni's malevolent body grew still. caught their breath as the last foe fell. The enemy's footsteps moved nearer. Only corruption exists.
Feel my blade!
Ghost struck true.
Time to disappear.
The enemy never saw it coming. The enemy would regret not killing the
We're stronger together.
The enemy had not yet given up. Oni met its demise. Enemies fell quickly.
We should not seek vengeance. Let you fall.
A ghost healed from the shadow.
Feel my blade! stronger together.
The ghosts had no time to rest. The Oni was no match for the ghosts.
Soul is mine.
Oni's corruption
That
ceased.
was the last one. I won't let you fall.
The enemy refused to retreat. Oni's beating heart became silent. The ghost became a deadly storm. Oni's corruption.
The final enemy is down. I won't let you fall.
The ghost fight that led to this moment. wounded ghost. Ghost stood ready. For me, ready its demise.
Feel my flame! Don't worry, I'm here.
The ghosts stood their ground as more enemies approached.
Stronger together.
Ghost down and Oni.
Don't worry, I'm here.
Ghost's wound sent them to their knees. Ghost butchered foe after foe. The ghost returned the Oni to its realm. The ghosts fought back the enemy, but they were not yet done. The ghosts were not yet finished. Death struck from a distance. The ghost attacked with brutal speed. One of the ghosts was taken out of the battle.
Into the
A
summarize.
ghost entered the battle once more. And Oni met its demise.
Don't worry, I'm here. We're stronger together.
The ghosts readied themselves for another attack. The ghost turned the Oni to its realm.
Your soul is mine.
The ghost reached their own. The ghost showed no hesitation. The ghost felt their strength return.
Last one's down. Don't worry, I'm here.
The reinforcements arrived. And Oni's corruption ceased. Ghost fell, still.
Don't worry, I'm here. Don't see any more stronger together.
The ghosts knew the challenge awaited them. Ghosts stood and saw the revenge. The Oni's feminine body grew still. An enemy fell to a ghost's perfect aim. Ghost was unstoppable.
Feel my blade!
Oni's corruption ceased.
Thanks. Into the shadows.
The ghost savored their victory for now,
Stronger
but
together.
knew in the days ahead they would face great danger. I have many legends for you to enjoy.